Okay, welcome back. We're up to our fourth episode of the Mueller report audiobook. We're still in a large section in volume 1 on Russian hacking and dumping. We're up to page 60 and we'll continue on from there. Other potential campaign interest in Russian hacked materials. Throughout 2016, the Trump campaign expressed interest in Hillary Clinton's private email server and whether approximately 30,000 emails from that server had in fact been permanently destroyed as reported by the media. Several individuals associated with the campaign were contacted in 2016 about various efforts to obtain the missing Clinton emails and other stolen material in support of the Trump campaign. Some of these contacts were met with skepticism, but nothing came of them. Others were pursued to some degree. The investigation did not find evidence that the Trump campaign recovered any such Clinton emails, or that these contacts were part of a coordinated effort between Russia and the Trump campaign. Henry Oknensky, also known as Henry Greenberg. In the spring of 2016, Trump advisor Michael Caputo learned through a Florida-based Russian business partner that another Florida-based Russian, Henry Okniansky, also went by the name Henry Greenberg, claimed to have information pertaining to Hillary Clinton. Caputo notified Roger Stone and brokered communication between Stone and Okniansky. Okniansky and Stone set up a May 2016 in-person meeting. Okniansky is probably the way to say it. Okniansky was accompanied to the meeting by Alexei Razin, a Ukrainian associate involved in Florida real estate. At the meeting, Razin offered to sell Stone derogatory information to Clinton that Razin claimed to have obtained while working for Clinton. Razin claimed to possess financial statements demonstrating Clinton's involvement in money laundering with Razin's companies. According to Okniansky, Stone asked if the amounts in question totaled millions of dollars, but was told it was closer to hundreds of thousands. Stone refused the offer, stating that Trump would not pay for opposition research. Okniansky claimed to the office that Razin's motivation was financial. According to Okniansky, Razin had tried unsuccessfully to shop the Clinton information around to other interested parties, and Okniansky would receive a cut if the information was sold. Razin is noted in public source documents as the director and/or registered agent for a number of Florida companies, none of which appears to be connected to Clinton. The office found no other evidence that Razin worked for Clinton or any Clinton-related entities. In their statements to investigators, Okniansky and Caputo had contradictory recollections about the meeting. Okniansky claimed that Caputo accompanied Stone to the meeting and provided an introduction, whereas Caputo did not tell us that he had attended and claimed that he was never told what information Okniansky offered. Caputo also stated that he was unaware Okniansky sought to be paid for the information until Stone informed him after the fact. The office did not locate Razin in the United States, although the office confirmed Razin had been issued a Florida driver's license. The office otherwise was unable to determine the content and origin of the information he purportedly offered to Stone. Finally, the investigation did not identify evidence of a connection between the outreach or the meeting and Russian interference efforts. B. Campaign efforts to obtain deleted Clinton emails. After candidate Trump stated on July 27, 2016 that he hoped Russia would find the 30,000 emails that are missing, Trump asked individuals affiliated with his campaign to find deleted Clinton emails. Michael Flynn, who would later serve as National Security Advisor in the Trump administration, recalled that Trump made this request repeatedly, and Flynn subsequently contacted multiple people in an effort to obtain the emails. Barbara Ledeen and Peter Smith were among the people contacted by Flynn. Ledeen, a long-time Senate staffer who had previously sought the Clinton emails, provided updates to Flynn about her efforts throughout the summer of 2016. Smith, an investment advisor who was active in Republican politics, also attempted to locate and obtain the deleted Clinton emails. Ledeen began her efforts to obtain the Clinton emails before Flynn's requests, as early as December 2015. On December 3, 2015, she emailed Smith a proposal to obtain the emails, stating, "Here is the proposal I briefly mentioned to you. The person I described to you would be happy to talk with you either in person or over the phone. The person can get the emails, which 1 were classified and 2 were purloined by our enemies. That would demonstrate what needs to be demonstrated. Attached to the emails were a 25-page proposal stating that the Clinton email server was, in all likelihood, breached long ago, that the Chinese, Russian and Iranian intelligence services could reassemble the server's email content. The proposal called for a three-phase approach. The first two phases consisted of open source analysis. The third phase consisted of checking with certain intelligence sources that have access through liaison work with various foreign services to determine if any of those services had gotten to the server. The proposal noted even if a single email was recovered and the provenance of that email was a foreign service, it would be catastrophic to the Clinton campaign. Smith forwarded the email to two colleagues and wrote, "We can discuss to whom it should be referred." On December 16, 2015, Smith informed Ledeen that he declined to participate in her initiative. According to one of Smith's business associates, Smith believed Ledeen's initiative was not viable at that time. Just weeks after Trump's July 2016 request to find the Clinton emails, however, Smith tried to locate and obtain the emails himself. He created a company, raised tens of thousands of dollars, and recruited security experts and business associates. Smith made claims to others involved in the effort and those from whom he had sought funding that he was in contact with hackers with ties and affiliations to Russia who had access to the emails, and that his efforts were coordinated with the Trump campaign. On August 28, 2016, Smith sent an email from an encrypted account with the subject "Sec Clinton's unsecured private email server" to an undisclosed list of recipients, including campaign co-chairman Sam Clovis. The email stated that Smith was just finishing 2 days of sensitive meetings here in DC with involved groups to poke and probe on the above. It is clear that the Clintons' home-based, unprotected server was hacked with ease by both state-related players and private mercenaries. Parties with varying interests are circling to release ahead of the election. On September 2, 2016, Smith directed a business associate to establish KLS Research LLC in furtherance of his search for the deleted Clinton emails. One of the purposes of KLS Research was to manage the funds Smith raised in support of this initiative. KLS Research received over $30,000 during the presidential campaign, although Smith represented that he raised even more money. Smith recruited multiple people for his initiative, including security experts to search for and authenticate the emails. In early September 2016, as part of his recruitment and fundraising effort, Smith circulated a document stating that his initiative was in coordination with the Trump campaign, to the extent permitted as an independent expenditure organisation. The document listed multiple individuals affiliated with the Trump campaign, including Flynn, Clovis, Bannon and Kellyanne Conway. The investigation established that Smith communicated with at least Flynn and Clovis about his search for the deleted Clinton emails, but the office did not identify evidence that any of the listed individuals initiated or directed Smith's efforts. September 2016, Smith and Ledeen got back in touch with each other about their respective efforts. Ledeen wrote to Smith, wondering if you had more detailed reports or memos or other data you could share, because we have come a long way in our efforts since we last visited. We would need as much technical discussion as possible so we could marry it against the new data we have found and then could share it back to you, your eyes only. Ledeen claimed to have supported a trove of emails from what she described as the dark web that purported to be the deleted Clinton emails. Ledeen wanted to authenticate the emails and solicited contributions to fund that effort. Eric Prince provided funding to hire a tech advisor to ascertain the authenticity of the emails. According to Prince, the tech advisor determined that the emails were not authentic. A backup of Smith's computer contained 2 files that had been downloaded from WikiLeaks and that were originally attached to emails received by John Podesta. The files on Smith's computer had creation dates of October 2, 2016, which was prior to the date of their release by WikiLeaks. Forensic examination, however, established that the creation date did not reflect when the files were downloaded to Smith's computer. It appears the creation date was when WikiLeaks staged the document for release, as discussed in Volume 1, Section 3B3. The investigation did not otherwise identify evidence that Smith obtained the files before their release by WikiLeaks. Smith continued to send emails to an undisclosed recipient list about Clinton's deleted emails until shortly before the election. For example, on October 28, 2016, Smith wrote that there was a tug of war going on within WikiLeaks over its planned releases in the next few days, and that WikiLeaks has maintained that it will save its best revelations for last. Under the theory, this allows little time for response prior to the US election on November 8. An attachment to, just checking the footnotes here, an attachment to the email claimed that WikiLeaks would release all 33K deleted emails by November 1st. No emails obtained from Clinton's server were subsequently released. Smith drafted multiple emails stating or intimating that he was in contact with Russian hackers. For example, in one such email, Smith claimed that in August 2016, KLS Research had organised meetings with parties who had access to the deleted Clinton emails, including parties with ties and affiliations to Russia. The investigation did not identify evidence that any such meetings occurred. Associates and security experts who worked with Smith on the initiative did not believe that Smith was in contact with Russian hackers and were aware of no such connection. The investigation did not establish that Smith was in contact with Russian hackers or that Smith, Ledeen or other individuals in touch with the Trump campaign ultimately obtained the deleted Clinton emails. In sum, the investigation established that the GRU hacked into email accounts of persons affiliated with the Clinton campaign, as well as the computers of the DNC and DCCC. The GRU then exfiltrated data related to the 2016 election from these accounts and computers and disseminated that data through fictitious online personas, DC Leaks and Gussifer 2.0, and later through WikiLeaks. The investigation also established that the Trump campaign displayed interest in the WikiLeaks releases and that redaction, harm to an ongoing matter, explained in Volume 1, Section VB Infra, the evidence was sufficient to support computer intrusion and other charges against GRU officers for their role in election-related hacking. And then there's further redaction. Okay, we Part 4, Russian government links to and contacts with the Trump campaign. The office identified multiple contacts, links, in the words of the appointment order, between Trump campaign officials and individuals with ties to the Russian government. The office investigated whether those contacts constituted a third avenue of attempted Russian interference with or influence on the 2016 presidential election. In particular, the investigation examined whether these contacts involved or resulted in coordination or a conspiracy with the Trump campaign and Russia, including with respect to Russia providing assistance to the campaign in exchange for any sort of favourable treatment in the future. Based on the available information, the investigation did not establish such coordination. This section describes the principal links between the Trump campaign and individuals with ties to the Russian government, including some contacts with campaign officials or associates that have been publicly reported to involve Russian contacts. Each subsection begins with an overview of the Russian contact at issue, and then describes in detail the relevant facts, which are generally presented in chronological order, beginning with the early months of the campaign and extending through the post-election transition period. A campaign period, September 2015 to November 8, 2016. Pardon me. Russian government-connected individuals and media entities began showing interest in Trump's campaign in the months after he announced his candidacy in June 2015. Because Trump's status as a public figure at the time was attributable in large part to his prior business and entertainment dealings, this office investigated whether a business contact with Russia-linked individuals and entities during the campaign period, the Trump Tower Moscow project, see Volume 1, Section 4, led to or involved coordination of election assistance. Outreach from individuals with ties to Russia continued in the spring and summer of 2016, when Trump was moving toward and eventually becoming the Republican nominee for president. As set forth below, the office also evaluated a series of links during this period, outreach to two Trump's then recently named foreign policy advisors, including a representative that Russia had dirt on Clinton in the form of thousands of emails, Volume 1, Section 4, previous dealings, dealings with a DC-based think tank that specialise in Russia and had connections with its government. See previous in this document. A meeting at Trump Tower between the campaign and Russian lawyer promising dirt on candidate Clinton that was part of Russia and its government's support for Trump. Events at the Republican National Convention, Volume 1, Section 4.A.6. Post-convention contacts between Trump campaign officials and Russia's ambassador to the United States, Volume 1, Section 4.A.7. And contacts through campaign chairman Paul Manafort, who had previously worked for a Russian oligarch and a pro-Russian political party in Ukraine, Volume 1, Section 4.A.8. In the footnotes, for example, on August 18, 2015, on behalf of the editor-in-chief of the internet newspaper Vlogzad, that's a very hard one to pronounce, Georgi Asatarian emailed campaign press secretary Hope Hicks asking for a phone or in-person candidate interview. On the 18th of the 8th, 2015, email of Asatarian to Hicks. One day earlier, the publication's founder and former Russian parliamentarian Konstantin Rykov had registered two Russian websites, Trump2016.ru and DonaldTrump2016.ru. No interview took place. Moving on to the next page. Number 1, Trump Tower Moscow project. The Trump organization had pursued and completed projects outside the United States as part of its real estate portfolio. Some projects have involved the acquisition and ownership through subsidiary corporate structures of property. In other cases, the Trump organization has executed licensing deals with real estate developers and management companies, often local to the country where the project is located. Between at least 2013 and 2016, the Trump organization explored a similar licensing deal in Russia, involving the construction of a Trump-branded property in Moscow. The project, commonly referred to as Trump Tower Moscow or Trump Moscow project, anticipated a combination of commercial, hotel and residential properties all within the same building. Between 2013 and 2016, several employees of the Trump organization, including then-president of the organization Donald J. Trump, pursued a Moscow deal with several Russian counterparties. From the fall 2015 until the middle of 2016, Michael Cohen spearheaded the Trump organization's pursuit of a Trump Tower Moscow project, including by reporting on the project status to candidate Trump and other executives in the Trump organization. A Trump Tower Moscow venture with the Crocus Group, 2013 to 2014. The Trump organization and Crocus Group, a Russian real estate conglomerate owned and controlled by Aris Agalarov, began discussing a Russia-based real estate project shortly after the conclusion of the 2013 Miss Universe pageant in Moscow. Donald J. Trump Jr. served as the primary negotiator on behalf of the Trump organization. Emin Agalarov, son of Aris Agalarov, and Irakli Ike Kavilades represented the Crocus Group during negotiations, with occasional assistance of Robert Goldstone. In December 2013, Kavilades and Trump Jr. negotiated and signed primary terms of an agreement for the Trump Tower Moscow project. On December 23, 2013, after discussions with Donald J. Trump, the Trump organization agreed to accept an arrangement whereby the organization received a flat 3.5% commission on all sales with no licensing fees or incentives. The parties negotiated a letter of intent during January and February 2014. From January 2014 through November 2014, the Trump organization and Crocus Group discussed development plans for the Moscow project. Sometime before January 24, 2014, the Crocus Group sent the Trump organization a proposal for an 800-unit, 194-meter building to be constructed at an Agalarov-owned site in Moscow called Crocus City, which had also been the site of the Miss Universe pageant. In February 2014, Ivanka Trump met with Emin Agalarov and toured the Crocus City site during a visit to Moscow. From March 2014 through July 2014, the group discussed design standards and other architectural elements. For example, in July 2014, members of the Trump organization sent Crocus Group counterparties questions about the demographics of these prospective buyers in the Crocus City area and development of neighbouring parcels in Crocus City, and concepts for redesigning portions of the building. In August 2014, the Trump Organization requested specifications for a competing Marriott-branded tower being built in Crocus City. Beginning in September 2014, the Trump Organization stopped responding in a timely fashion to correspondence and proposals from the Crocus Group. Communications between the two groups continued through November 2014 with decreasing frequency. What appears to be the last communication is dated November 24, 2014. The project appears not to have developed past the planning stage and no construction occurred. B. Communications with IC Expert Investment Company and Georgi Rixalades, that's a hard word to say, Rixalades, summer and fall 2015. I'll just call him Rick. Georgie Rick. In the late summer 2015, the Trump Organization received a new inquiry about pursuing a Trump Tower project in Moscow. In approximately September 2015, Felix Sater, a New York-based real estate advisor, contacted Michael Cohen, then Executive Vice President of the Trump Organization and Special Counsel to Donald J. Trump. Sater had previously worked with the Trump Organization and advised it on a number of domestic and international projects. Sater had explored the possibility of a Trump Tower project in Moscow while working with the Trump Organization and therefore knew of the organization's general interest in completing a deal there. Sater had also served as an informal agent of the Trump Organization in Moscow previously and had accompanied Ivanka Trump and Donald Trump Jr. to Moscow in the mid-2000s. Sater contacted Cohen on behalf of IC Expert Investment Company, IC Expert, a Russian real estate development corporation controlled by Andrei Vladimirovich Rozov. Sater had known Rozov since approximately 2007 and in 2014 had served as an agent on behalf of Rozov during Rozov's purchase of a building in New York City. Sater later contacted Rozov and proposed that IC Expert pursue a Trump Tower Moscow project in which IC Expert would license the name and brand from the Trump Organization but construct the building on its own. Sater worked on the deal with Rozov and another employee of IC Expert. Cohen was the only Trump Organization representative to negotiate directly with IC Expert or its agents. In approximately September 2015, Cohen obtained approval to negotiate with IC Expert from candidate Trump, who was then president of the Trump Organization. Cohen provided updates directly to Trump about the project through 2015 and into 2016, assuring him the project was continuing. Trump also discussed the Trump Moscow project with Ivanka Trump as to design elements, such as possible architects to use for the project, and Donald J. Trump Jr. about his experience in Moscow and possible involvement in the project during the fall of 2015. Also, during the fall of 2015, Cohen communicated about the Trump Moscow proposal with Georgie Ricks, a business executive who previously had been involved in a development deal with the Trump Organization in Batumi, Georgia. Cohen stated that he spoke to Ricks in part because Ricks had pursued business ventures in Moscow, including a licensing deal with the Agalarov-owned Crocus Group. On September 22, 2015, Cohen forwarded a preliminary design study for the Trump Moscow project to Ricks, adding, "I look forward to your reply about this particular project in Moscow." Ricks forwarded Cohen's email to an associate and wrote, "If we could organize the meeting in New York at the highest level of the Russian government and Mr. Trump, this project would definitely receive worldwide attention." On September 24, 2015, Ricks sent Cohen an attachment that he described as a proposed letter to the mayor of Moscow from Trump Org, explaining that we need to send this letter to the mayor of Moscow, second guy in Russia, as he is aware of the potential project and will pledge his support. In a second email to Cohen sent the same day, Ricks provided a translation of the letter which described the Trump Moscow project as a symbol of stronger economic, business and cultural relationships between New York and Moscow, and therefore the United States and the Russian Federation. On September 27, 2015, Ricks sent another email to Cohen proposing that the Trump Organization partner on the Trump Moscow project with Global Development Group LLC, which he described as being controlled by Mikhail Posokhin, a Russian architect, and Simon Nizharads. Cohen told the office that he ultimately declined the proposal and instead continued to work with IC Expert, the company represented by Felix Sater. C. Letter of Intent and Contacts to Russian Government, October 2015 to January 2016. Trump signs the letter of intent on behalf of the Trump Organization. Between approximately October 13, 2015 and November 2, 2015, the Trump Organization, through its subsidiary Trump Acquisition LLC and IC Expert, completed a letter of intent for a Trump Moscow property. The letter of intent, signed by Trump for the Trump Organization and Rozov on behalf of IC Expert, was intended to facilitate further discussions in order to attempt to enter into a mutually acceptable agreement related to the Trump-branded project in Moscow. The letter of agreement contemplated a development with residential, hotel, and commercial and office components and called for approximately 250 first-class residential luxury condominiums, as well as one first-class luxury hotel consisting of approximately 15 floors and containing not fewer than 150 hotel rooms. For the residential and commercial portions of the project, the Trump Organization would receive between 1% and 5% of all condominium sales, plus 3% of all rental and other revenue. For the project's hotel portion, the Trump Organization would receive a base fee of 3% of gross operating revenues for the first 5 years and 4% thereafter, plus a separate incentive fee of 20% of operating profit. Under the LOI, the Trump Organization also would receive a $4 million upfront fee prior to groundbreaking. Under these terms, the Trump Organization stood to earn substantial sums over the lifetime of the project, without assuming significant liabilities or financing commitments. On November 3, 2015, the day after the Trump Organization transmitted the letter of intent, Sater emailed Cohen suggesting that the Trump Moscow project could be used to increase candidate Trump's chances being elected, writing, "Buddy, our boy can become president of the USA and we can engineer it. I will get all of Putin's team to buy in on this. I will manage this process. Michael, Putin gets on stage with Robin for a ribbon cutting for Trump Moscow. Donald owns the Republican nomination. Possibly beats Hillary and our boy is in. We will manage this process better than anyone. You and I will get Donald and Vladimir on a stage together very shortly. That's the game changer." Later that day, Sater followed up, "Donald doesn't stare down, he negotiates and understands the economic issues, and Putin only wants to deal with a pragmatic leader and a successful businessman is a good candidate for someone who knows how to negotiate. Business, politics, whatever it all is, the same for someone who knows how to deal." I think I can get Putin to say that at the Trump Moscow press conference. If he says it, we own this election. America's most difficult adversary agreeing that Donald Trump is a good guy to negotiate. We can own this election. Michael, my next steps are very sensitive with Putin's very, very close people. We can pull this off. Michael, let's go. 2 boys from Brooklyn getting a USA president elected. This is good, really good. According to Cohen, he did not consider the political import of the Trump-Moscow project to the 2016 US presidential election at the time. Cohen also did not recall candidate Trump or anyone affiliated with the Trump campaign discussing the political implications of the Trump-Moscow project with him. However, Cohen recalled conversations with Trump in which the candidate suggested that his campaign would be a significant infomercial for Trump-branded properties. Post-LOI contacts with individuals in Russia. Given the size of the Trump-Moscow project, Sater and Cohen believed the project required approval, whether express or implicit, from the Russian national government, including from the presidential administration of Russia. Sater stated that he therefore began to contact the presidential administration through another Russian business contact. In early negotiations with the Trump Organization, Sater had alluded to the need for government approval and his attempts to set up meetings with Russian officials. On October 12, 2015, for example, Sater wrote to Cohen that all we need is Putin on board and we are golden, and that a meeting with Putin and top deputies tentatively set for 14th of October. Redaction, this meeting was being coordinated by associates in Russia and that he had no direct interaction with the Russian government. Approximately a month later, after the letter of intent had been signed, Lana Oshova emailed Ivanka Trump on behalf of Oshova's then-husband Dmitry Klokov to offer Klokov's assistance to the Trump campaign. Klokov was at the time Director of External Communications for PJSC, Federal Grid Company of Unified Energy System, a large Russian electricity transmission company, and had previously been employed as an aide and press secretary to Russia's energy minister. Ivanka Trump forwarded the email to Cohen. He told the office that after receiving the inquiry, he had conducted an internet search for Klokov's name and concluded incorrectly that Klokov was a former Olympic weightlifter. Between November 18 and 19, 2015, Klokov and Cohen had at least one telephone call and exchanged several emails. Describing himself in emails to Cohen as a trusted person who could offer the campaign political synergy and synergy on a government level, Klokov recommended that Cohen travel to Russia to speak with him and an unidentified intermediary. Klokov said that these in conversations could facilitate a later meeting in Russia between the candidate and an individual Klokov described as our person of interest. In an email to the office, Oshova later identified the person of interest as Russian President Vladimir Putin. In the telephone call and follow-on emails with Klokov, Cohen discussed his desire to use a near-term trip to Russia to do site surveys and to talk over the Trump-Moscow project with local developers. Cohen registered his willingness also to meet with Klokov and the unidentified intermediary, but was emphatic that all meetings in Russia involving him or candidate Trump, including a possible meeting with candidate Trump and Putin, would need to be in conjunction with the development and an official visit, with the Trump Organization receiving a formal invitation to visit. Klokov had written previously that the visit by candidate Trump to Russia has to be informal. Klokov had also previously recommended to Cohen that he separate their negotiations over a possible meeting between Trump and the person of interest from any existing business track. Re-emphasising that his outreach was not done on behalf of any business, Klokov added in a second email to Cohen that, if publicised well, such a meeting would have phenomenal impact in a business dimension, and that the person of interest, most important support, could have significant ramifications for the level of projects and their capacity. Just looking at the footnotes on this page, footnote 336 said during his interviews with the office, Cohen still appeared to believe that the Klokov he spoke with was that Olympian. I think this is very funny. The investigation, however, established that the email address used to communicate with Cohen belongs to a different Dmitry Klokov, as described above. Footnote 338. In July 2018, the office received an unsolicited email purported to be from Oshova, in which she wrote that at the end of 2015 and beginning of 2016, I was asked by my ex-husband to contact Ivanka Trump and offer cooperation to Trump's team on behalf of the Russian officials. The email claimed that the officials wanted to offer candidate Trump land in Crimea, among other things, and unofficial meeting with Putin. In order to vet the email's claims, the office responded requesting more details, and the office did not receive any reply. Klokov concluded by telling Cohen that there was no bigger warranty in any project than the consent of the person of interest. Cohen rejected the proposal, saying that currently our letter of intent developer is in talks with VP's Chief of Staff and arranging a formal invite for the two to meet. This email appears to be their final exchange, and the investigation did not identify evidence that Cohen brought Klokov's initial offer of assistance to the campaign's attention, or that anyone associated with the Trump Organization or the campaign dealt with Klokov at a later date. Cohen explained that he did not pursue the proposed meeting because he was already working on the Moscow project with Sater, who Cohen understood to have his own connections to the Russian government. By late 2015, however, Cohen was complaining that Sater had not been able to use those connections to set up the promised meeting with Russian government officials. Cohen told Sater that he was setting up the meeting myself. On January 11, 2016, Cohen emailed the office of Dmitry Peskov, the Russian government's press secretary, indicating that he desired contact with Sergei Ivanov, Putin's chief of staff. Cohen erroneously used the email address .gov.ru instead of .gov.ru, so the email apparently did not go through. On January 14, 2016, Cohen emailed a different address, info@prpress.gov.ru, with the following message. Dear Mr. Peskov, over the past few months, I've been working with a company based in Russia regarding the development of a Trump Tower Moscow project in Moscow City. Without getting into lengthy specifics, the communication between our two sides has stalled. As this project is too important, I hereby requesting your assistance. I respectfully request someone, preferably you, contact me so that I might discuss the specifics as well as arranging meetings with the appropriate individuals. I thank you in advance for your assistance and look forward to hearing from you soon. 2 days later, Cohen sent an email to .gov.ru email address repeating his request to speak with Sergei Ivanov. Cohen testified to Congress and initially told the office that he did not recall receiving a response to his email inquiry and that he decided to terminate any further work on the Trump Moscow project as of January 2016. Cohen later admitted that these statements were false. In fact, Cohen had received and recalled receiving a response to his inquiry, and he continued to work on and update candidate Trump on the project through as late as June 2016. On January 20, 2016, Cohen received an email from Elena Polyakova, Peskov's personal assistant. Writing from her personal email account, Polyakova stated that she had been trying to reach Cohen and asked that he call her on the personal number she provided. Shortly after receiving Polyakova's email, Cohen called her and spoke to her for 20 minutes. Cohen described to Polyakova his position at the Trump Organization and outlined the proposed Trump Moscow project, including information about the Russian counterparty with which the Trump Organization had partnered. Cohen requested assistance in moving the project forward, both in securing land to build the project and with financing. According to Cohen, Polyakova asked detailed questions and took notes, stating that she would need to follow up with others in Russia. Cohen could not recall any direct follow-up from Polyakova or from any other representative of the Russian government, nor did the office identify any evidence of direct follow-up. However, the day after Cohen's call with Polyakova, Sater texted Cohen asking him to call me when you have a few minutes to chat. It's about Putin. They called today. Sater then sent a draft invitation for Cohen to visit Moscow to discuss the Trump Moscow project, along with a note to tell me if the letter is good as amended by me, or make whatever changes you want and send it back to me. After a further round of edits on January 25, 2016, Sater sent Cohen an invitation signed by Andriy Royabinsky of the company MHJ to travel to Moscow for a working visit about the prospects of development and the construction business in Russia, the various land plots available suited for construction of this enormous tower, and the opportunity to coordinate a follow-up visit to Moscow by Mr. Donald Trump. According to Cohen, he elected not to travel at the time because of concerns about the lack of concrete proposals about land plots that could be considered as options for the project.